Hey there, this is Bill. This is a time-lapse of my garage renovation I did last year. You might be thinking about renovating your garage or basement or something, and hopefully this gives you a really good idea of how much work it's going to take and maybe gives you some ideas. I would love it if this series could help encourage people to do something similar. This is part 5, where I tape and mud the drywall and then paint. Going into this renovation, the drywall taping and mudding was the only thing that I was thinking of hiring out. But I decided to give it a shot myself first. I've done a few drywall patches that turned out okay, but nothing at this scale. Somehow I lost the footage where I pre-fill in some of the joints in this middle band area. In this area there are places where a factory taper joint meets a butt joint, and this all needs to be filled in with just a bunch of drywall compound before you apply the tape. Then at that point you just treat it like a regular butt joint. I mentioned in an earlier video that if I would have been able to get a different size of drywall, I could have avoided these weird joints. And now having done this, I would absolutely avoid it in the future, even if I had to spend a bunch more on the drywall, because the taper joints, also called factory joints, they are so much easier to get looking smooth. The general process of taping and mudding drywall should be that you pre-fill any big gaps and then let that dry. Then you apply a little bit of joint compound called the bedding coat, and then you embed the paper tape in that and wait for it to dry. Then you apply a wide, thin band of joint compound on top of the tape to hide that transition. And then you come back and sand off any peaks and add more compound as necessary, and then just repeat it until it's all smooth. Then after that you can prime and paint it. What I'm doing here is using this light at a really sharp angle to try and find high and low spots, and then writing down where I need to make adjustments right on the drywall. I did this around the room, and then I came through and tried to make any corrections. Then I would have to wait a day for it to dry and repeat the process until it looks good. if you're thinking to yourself, man, this guy is not very good at drywall, or maybe you've already commented that, you're right. I wanted to see if I could do this all by myself and have it look good, but I couldn't, so I gave up. I paid a guy $500 to finish up the process and then to prime. I wanted him to put the primer down because sometimes it's hard to see issues in the drywall until you've primed, just because the paint makes it smoother and easier to see. So this made sure that he could inspect it and make changes as necessary, and then I could come through and verify that it was good enough, and it was. The professionals who do this for a living do it so well and so quick. I spent almost 2 weeks trying to get it looking nice, and this guy did it in about 3 days. One thing that I hope that you can learn from me having to hire this out isn't that you shouldn't do it yourself. It's that you should at least try. I have another project coming up that has some drywall work in it, and I'm gonna try it again, but I'll also budget for hiring that part out. Doing this renovation gave me a lot of experience, but I spent enough time on it and I had to move on. This way I get to learn a lot, and I have all the tools, and I'm certainly better at drywall now than I was before, even if I have a long way to go. There is a quote that always comes to mind when things aren't working out how I want them to, and it's, "Success is not the absence of failure, it is persistence through failure." So keep that in mind, give it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, that's fine. So let's skip ahead here, past my drywall guy, and move on to painting. We first painted the ceiling with a basic flat white paint. My wife is here cutting in the edges with a brush, and I'm using a roller. Unfortunately, I was having some issues with my camera losing power and cutting out after 20 minutes, so I didn't record the whole process, but I think you get the idea. Now we're onto the walls. We put on 2 coats of a light gray color, first cutting it around everything with a brush and then filling in with a roller, just like on the ceiling. We waited a few hours and then applied a second coat. After that, I put the outlets back in place and put some cool faceplates on them. In the next video, I'm going to add some awesome lighting to the garage. And in the next few episodes, I'll do an unboxing of the lights and add some insulation to the garage door. If that sounds good to you, and you made it this far, I hope you'll subscribe and follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.